You're listening to Table for Five with Felicia and Annette, only on LA Talk Radio.
You've seen The View. You've heard all the real talk. Now have a seat at our table. A table for five.
Hello and good Monday morning. Oh my God, this is going to be so hard to get through. Good morning, everyone. Good Monday morning. Welcome to Table for Five with Felicia and Annette. I'm Felicia.
I'm Annette.
And you are here at, I don't even know where you are. You're at Table for Five. I'm like, all
LATalkradio.com.
Yes.
There you go.
LATalkradio.com, Table for Five, where you, the listening, viewing audience, will always have a seat right here at this table for our conversation and our shows and everything else. And yeah. This is so okay. I'm gonna drink some water.
Okay, so I just want to remind everybody how they can follow us when we're not on the air. All our social media platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, website www.table-for-5.com. If you're watching us on LATalkradio.com, you could just hop over to @Felicia and Annette on Facebook. We are live, so if you want to join in on this really interesting conversation today, you don't want to miss out. You could leave a comment on our feed. And also, if you want to call in, if you want to be one of those brave folks that call in,
yes, give us a call.
You could call us at 818-570-5085, 818-570-5085. But again, if you're watching us on LATalkradio.com, you can go to Facebook @Felicia and Annette, Table for Five, and shoot us a question or a comment.
Yes. And we're just going to start the show. I know we have a topic with our reoccurring guest.
Yeah,
but we do
the one and only Dr. Kelly.
Yes, let's give her a little round of applause for our monthly segment. But we do have some sad news. We might as well just tell you at the beginning of the show.
Okay,
just
go
get
ahead.
it.
Get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Pull the Band-Aid.
Oh my God.
Pull the Band-Aid.
I can't do it. You're going to have to say it.
So after 2 years of being on video
Yeah.
podcast, 1 year on podcast? I thought it was 2 years on audio.
I think it was 2.
2 years on audio and 2 years on video. This will be our final video podcast.
Show.
I know, our guest did not know. She's like, wait, what? Forever?
I missed
Forever?
it. I thought they meant a break for the season.
I know. She
final
was like,
show for
wait.
2018 and final show for the show.
Table for Five on LA Talk Radio.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but you can catch all of our other shows and on our website. Don't join our website. You can catch all our shows, our gallery, and our YouTube page, all the shows there, all the guests. If there was somebody that you're like, oh, I wanted to find out more about so-and-so, you can go there and you can find it all on our website, all on our YouTube channel. And if you have questions or comments, you can contact us on our website as well at contact@tablefor5.com.
Yeah.
And if you want to leave us a little comment on the comments, that'll be great. We can answer any questions that you think you might want to ask us.
Jump in on this conversation. This is a great conversation that we're going to have wrapping up our segments with Dr. Kelly. We're going to be talking today about physician burnout. I know it's a little bit interesting topic, but it's one it's one that you wanted to bring up especially, and I think it's very poignant. It's timely. We need to talk about it. This is a great way to wrap up the end of your segment.
I know. I was reading an article that you shared. We shared.
That was a very interesting article.
And it was very powerful.
Yeah,
I was like,
oh
my Jesus, how do we know that our physicians are not burned out?
When you don't like them.
Yeah, well, so explain what that is. And then how dangerous is it to go to, Dr. Kelly is an ER physician. She works at Northridge Hospital. If you ever, I don't know when she is there, but if you go to Northridge,
multiple
say,
times during the week.
I
You
know.
can catch me 17 times a month.
Ouch.
Randomly.
So you could be, can I see Dr. Kelly? But you better be ill. Anyway, so what is, I was reading the article and I think I was fascinated about how dangerous it really is for a physician to be burnt out. Like, it's no joke.
It's dangerous for the physician and the patient and the physician's family and the staff, everyone around the physician. It's just, so burnout, I think it's a term that we use to describe like a collection of symptoms or the way the physician feels, but it leads to like, you know, really real consequences for the physician and the people that we're taking care of. So
Right.
I think that a lot of it comes from what I read and experienced, the stress from the job. And the stress from the job comes from multiple different places. I mean, right now,
they're comparing it to PST.
Right. I was
That's
just
like
gonna
no
say,
joke.
so
I
the
was
reason
gonna
I
say,
sent you
like,
guys that article is because I'd never really read an article like that describing
That was very traumatic for me to read.
physician
But I think
burnout.
it's very true. I think if you look at the symptoms
When
in
they
the article, they were
read it,
talking
I
about
did.
PTSD.
I agree with it.
Yeah,
I mean,
post-traumatic stress
I
disorder.
think the thing that was more poignant than just like the post-traumatic stress disorder was how, so when they talked about like PTSD, they described like a moral injury. So with soldiers or people in the military, the moral injury is that you have to reconcile that you may potentially be killing someone, maybe for a reason you do or don't agree with, but taking someone's life is really serious.
Right.
So the moral injury that they, you know, compare, you know, with physicians is that we take an oath when we all want to become doctors because we want to help people, but there's multiple things in the healthcare system that don't allow us to help people the best way we see fit. Sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes. And that weighs on you. It weighs on your conscience.
And I imagine the loss of life. Like,
oh God, we're
that's
not even gonna talk about. I don't even know how to describe
Yeah.
right.
my
So-
reaction to that. I don't even think
so
I've
let me
dealt with
ask you
that.
something. When you guys are, especially in ER, which is very high likeliness, I imagine.
So if you look at the numbers, there's certain specialties that have higher rates of burnout. I actually have it on my phone. I was actually surprised by some of them.
So do you guys go, let's say you lose a child,
that's the worst.
right?
That's
So
tough.
is there like an outlet where you guys go and say, okay, I need to go speak to a psychiatrist?
I mean, I would say yes, there are outlets. Some hospitals better than others. Like during residency, I think it's a little easier because they kind of protect you. Like, oh, are you okay? Do you want to talk to someone? Do
They
you want
come
talk
to
it out?
you and ask you about
Sometimes,
it.
yeah, you know, like
Okay.
if you have a good senior resident or a good attending, they'll pull you to the side. Are you okay? How'd that make you feel? But when you're out on your own, once you graduate, there's not necessarily anyone doing that for you. You're from the ER perspective anyway. Like
Right.
we're the captain of the ship, so not everybody's always checking for the captain of the ship.
So, like, is there not like a once a month type of thing where
No.
someone in administration
No.
is looking at the rate of,
no,
say,
I don't. I mean,
death
honestly,
in the
this
ER?
might be a really strong comment, and I know that there's a lot of people doing work and writing articles about physician burnout and trying to help us. But in general, the way I feel, what I've experienced in medicine, there's no one checking for us or trying to help us.
Yeah.
Understand these feelings that we have. I can't tell you how many times I go to work and we're all like, "Oh God, we're here today." It's a stressful job.
Would it be more beneficial then, do you think, if you did have someone there that was kind of like,
Yeah,
let's just make sure that everyone is okay? I mean, to me, it's kind of bizarre if you think about it in the way of like just how things are run and from a business perspective. Why isn't there someone
So
that's
let's think
like,
about slavery here.
Yeah. No.
No, seriously. I'm serious. You put workers out in the field and they're just doing their job. All you care about is that cotton that they're bringing back. You know, you care if all of a sudden they can't work, but you know what you're going to do all of a sudden if they can't work? You're going to go
Replace
buy
them.
another slave and replace them.
Yeah.
And I hate to compare medicine to stuff like that,
Right.
but a lot of these big corporations, it's what it is.
So
Like, you
that's the
replace them.
same. So that would be the
That's
same
bad.
in, I know, right?
Yeah.
In private practice, someone who has a private practice, is the burnout
No,
something they can control?
With private practice, I think maybe the triggers are a little different because with private practice, you technically own your own business.
Right.
But there's pressures from insurance companies.
Right.
You know, like you want to
Right.
make the best decisions for your patient, but,
Right.
you know, my patient needs this, but the insurance company won't approve it.
Right.
Right.
You can't get it done. Or, you know, because you're trying to cover your overhead and stay in the black, like you have to see 50 patients a day when
Right.
you're really only built or set up to
I
see
see.
20 and
Right.
really
Right.
spend time to talk to them. That's why, like, there's so many patients that come into the emergency department and I'm like, they have no real understanding of their disease process. And that's not necessary. It's because physicians don't always have the time. You just don't always have the time. Like you have 15-minute time slots and you're talking about really complex diseases that it took us years to understand.
Right.
So
we're trying to do it like that.
Yeah, you're trying to do it like that, and that stuff weighs on you. You know, you go home and you're like, did I explain that properly? Are they really going to get that? If you care and you're invested, yeah, it bothers you.
And that's how the premise of most people get into medicine is because you do care.
Well, you care.
And I've had people describe that I've had this primary care doctor for 20 years, and they were so amazing when, you know, I first started going to them, and now it just seems like they don't care. No, it's not that they don't care. They're burnt out.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I know some of these doctors personally. Like, I know them personally, and I know they're good people. And then I hear their patients talk about them, and I'm like, well, that doesn't really line up.
Yeah.
But that's why.
So one of the things I read in the article, which I thought was fascinating, was the symptoms of burnout come from a broken healthcare system, the financial responsibility, and the electronic
medical record.
Yes, I
So
found that
It was
fascinating.
it was supposed to make things easier,
No,
right?
no,
The
no,
electronic
no.
medical
See,
record,
you have
right?
to understand America. It was supposed to make things easier to bill.
Not necessarily for your job. So that push came from the insurance industry?
Oh, I hope nobody's listening to this.
Girl, you gon'
I know.
I mean, but if that's where it came from, I would
I'm
be
just talking
interested
about
to
my and that's
understand.
Obamacare was it? Did it come
no,
from?
I you know, I didn't
blame
no,
Obamacare.
the EMR has been around longer than that, and honestly, I haven't necessarily done the research to 100% say that, but that's kind of my feeling about it. I mean, we're physicians. We're gonna do what we need to do regardless. Like, you know, I'm gonna see my patient. I'm gonna order what I need to order, and you know, whatever. But there's all these check boxes we have to check: critical care time, procedure notes. There's certain things you have to check to make your chart. This is an ER perspective. I don't know. And everybody who charts, you have like codes that you have to code to bill for. You know, like I have to make some charts, a level 5 chart, level 1 chart, level this, level that.
Okay, so wait a minute. So you're doing this while
I'm working.
So while
In
you're
real
seeing
time.
me in the ER and my appendix is bursting and you got to go to the computer.
So you do it when you can. Okay, so you do it when you can. If I have a sick patient in front of me, no. I had a patient the other day who was really very sick. I was in the room for 2 hours without charting and chart anything.
Wow.
So it happens. And when I say in the room for 2 hours, like in and out,
Right.
whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I chart after. And I have scribes too. They just stand behind me and I could just, you know, kind of say out loud what I want them to chart. But generally I chart my own medical decision making. So I always have to do that later. If it's not busy or I'm in a good flow, I can do it like in real time. So I get up, see a patient, sit down, write a little note, put in orders for the patient that I just saw. I kind of have a system. But those things take away from the time you're at the bedside. So you've been in the ER recently, and you were texting me like, "Oh, I'm just here, just waiting for my labs, just waiting.
They're gonna do this.
Just
What do you
waiting.
think about that?"
And it's like people don't understand that. I would much rather be at the bedside, sitting, talking to you, really making you understand what's going on, but I can't because I have other responsibilities. With charting, so the EMR takes away from.
Go ahead.
And I was going to say, and the charting. So the difference, if you will, can you explain to everybody how did it change? Like,
Okay,
what
so
was
here's
the difference
the
between like
kicker. Here's the
paper
kicker.
and
Here's the
computer?
kicker. I'm pretty young, so it's been an EMR
Since you okay, so you were never really.
It was
did you do-
relatively new. So when I started residency in what year was that? 2012. When I started residency in 2012. A lot of ERs were transitioning to EMR, so not everyone had them.
Right.
But 9 times out of 10, if you were at a large academic center, they had electronic medical records. But I do remember upstairs, like on the floors when we did rotation upstairs, they still had paper charting. And what we use in the ER specifically, they're called T-sheets. And we still use them if like the computer systems go down.
Right.
We have to use T-sheets. T-sheets are, let me see that full paper. They're this size, regular paper, and they have little things about this size where you put the patient's history, physical exam, whatever labs you wanted to order, and it's this big. So it takes 2 seconds to write it. It's not enough space to write
everything.
So that's why they did the EMR. So you know very clearly what the physician did, what you can code for, how you. So it's different. The EMR, the electronic medical record, has all these little boxes, and it's easier to bill. It's easier to tell what you did.
Is that optional? Because I know when I go see my general practitioner, they do the computer thing. So
everybody does now.
No, but my OBGYN pulls out my old charts this thick. He's writing everything in.
Really?
Oh, yes, he is. He has not done the computer thing at all. And I was like, what? He's like, no, this works for me. It's been working for me for years.
Old?
Yeah, he's an older gentleman. Yeah.
Some people
it's
refuse.
a private practice.
Yeah,
so
it's a private practice. Yeah, that's what I'm
wants.
saying. It's like,
If you run a private practice, you can do whatever you want, but you still have to get the billing and all that stuff done. So, I mean, that's his personal preference. But if you go into a hospital system,
right,
it's
gonna be
it's whatever the
electronic.
hospital system.
Right.
wants.
Because I was very surprised by that, because I went to my regular doctor. Everybody, the whole system has that. And then when I went to him, I was like, wait, you don't have it? And I made fun of him. He's like, no.
And the paper charts take up space too. You know, because they have to. But imagine how many patients he has in his practice, and you have to keep those records for a certain number of years. I forgot how many, but you have to keep them.
5 to 7 or something.
Yeah.
Like
I
that.
imagine there has to be an electronic
then they have backups.
Door.
They
No?
have backups, and then they just move all the physical files generally to a storage facility.
Right,
so
right.
like if you go, I've gone to doctors where it's been like, I've been here, it's been a minute, and I think now with the paper stuff, they're keeping it in house less, so it might be more like 3 to 5 years instead of 5 to 7. But they'll move those, and they still can't. I don't think right now by law they can get rid of your medical records. I think they still have to keep them. Because if the electronical stuff all goes down, you still have to have record of it. But I've had medical records lost. This is why I keep my own medical records in this transition.
I keep the important stuff
of people going from electronic to this and going back and forth.
Well, I think also. So, what do you think about this? My internist, we have not accounts. Well, yeah, like medical accounts. So you go in and you see all your medical records, like electronically.
Oh,
so
yeah, I like that
you
system.
create a profile. You communicate that way.
What I would say is, I mean, I'm kind of like, I don't know, conspiracy theorist.
Yes,
too.
I was just getting ready to say,
like print out your stuff. Like, yeah, I mean, I like the fact that a lot of practices have like the online thing where patients can see their own records. Kaiser I have Kaiser, so Kaiser has it too. Like your records are available immediately.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You don't have to wait. Like, whoa, what was my result?
But I
What
just
was my
feel like,
result?
is that really protected? Like, is that super protected? And who
From
else has
who?
access to that? I don't know. Somebody that might be wanting.
I
to
mean,
what are they
they're,
gonna do with it?
They're protected.
I don't know.
Here's what I would say: they are protected
Crazy
because there's a law, HIPAA,
Yeah.
that you can't just forward people's medical information. You go to jail if you did that. But everybody knows there's hackers and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But what's the alternative?
I mean, there is none.
That's what I'm saying. What was
keeping
your
paper?
But people can still access papers, though.
Yeah, you
But,
print it out and you just have it.
But who really wants your medical records? Like,
I don't know. Listen, they're cloning humans, so maybe they're trying to make another one of me on the other side of the world.
I like that I can
know.
access all. I don't know what I mean. All hospitals, UCLA does it, USC does it. They all do it.
I think it's nice because you know what your results are. I mean, the physician still has to follow up with you to explain them.
Okay, but I want to go back to the so the electronic obviously was effective but distracting. They said the financials, meaning that you go to school, the debt, is that what they meant? The debt of school.
Painful.
And that's why you work so hard. You work so hard. You work so hard. So that you can pay the debt.
So here's my story. When I first finished residency, my first job out of residency, I was working 12 shifts a month as an ER doctor. And at first I was like, God, I have so much time on my hands. I need to work a little bit more, because during the resident, I work 18 to 20 shifts a month.
When I'm gonna back it up. When you say a shift, how long is the shift?
Oh, so when I was a resident, they were 10 to 12 hours. When I finished residency, I was like, I'm absolutely not working 12-hour shifts. So I do 8-hour shifts. But you have to understand that from an ER perspective, 8-hour shifts turn into 9 to 10-hour shifts. 10-hour shifts turn into 11 or 12 hours, and 12-hour shifts turn into 13 or 14. You know.
Yeah.
So that's why I refuse to work 12-hour shifts. But I was working 12 shifts a month, and that's for anybody listening. That's almost like full time for an ER doctor. And then I was like, I'll bump it up to 15, just because I was bored. Whatever. And then I bought a house. So
and now she's doing 22. No.
So just full disclosure, like my loan burden once I finished residency was $390,000.
Oh my God.
So my standard loan payments per month, with our lovely 6.8% APR, was, which is terrible.
Crazy.
It's highway
Awful.
robbery what they
Yes.
do to us. was $3,300 a month.
Wow.
So then
That's a mortgage.
it is a mortgage.
Yeah, because $390 is a house.
It's not my mortgage though. So then you purchase a home, and you have another mortgage to pay.
You got
right.
2 mortgages.
So just those 2 bills alone, that's like almost $7,000. No, I'm lying. It's way more than that. That's a lot of money.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're
Per
looking
month
almost $10,000
coming out of your pocket. And then, God forbid, you want to like get married and have kids. And actually, so we make a lot of money, but you have to understand there's a lot of money going out.
Right.
It's like more money you make, the more money that goes out. So that's stressful too. It's like you've prolonged, any sort of gratification in your 20s and
How
early
much
30s.
is med school?
Depends on where you go. I went to a state medical school in New Jersey, which is typically cheaper. Same thing with college. Like if you go to a state school, and I had to take out about $56,000 every year. So imagine if you go to, and that's how much some colleges cost now.
Right.
So imagine if you go to like a private medical school, one of them fancy ones.
Right.
You paying a lot.
And how much, like, what is the range? Are we talking like over
100,000? Yeah, I would say a year.
Or a semester.
Some of them could
A year.
They bill per year.
Yeah.
So and let me. So there's 2 components of paying for your medical education. There's how much the tuition is, and then you same thing with like college. I would say room and board and your expenses, because most people can't work during med school. I tried. It was a disaster.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's too hard. I think you have to
it's too
focus.
much. It's too much. So if you don't have mommy and daddy who can pay for your expenses, then you're gonna have to ask
Take
the
a
government
loan.
for the money.
Yeah.
So those things, the financial burden, those are stressful. The EMR, being frustrated with the system. It's just the system. Managing insurance companies, which you can and can't do, and then also meeting metrics. There's metrics that you have to meet for certain things.
What is that?
So, all right, strokes, sepsis. Sepsis is a really bad, overwhelming, like bacterial infection. So stroke, sepsis, and heart attacks. Those are the 3 big things that are big in emergency medicine right now. So if you have a stroke, right, I think most people are aware that you want to recognize the symptoms and get to the ER as fast as possible. There's a saying that says time is brain. So the faster you get there, the better chances you have of saving whatever part of brain is having a stroke. And that's because we need to give a medication called TPA, which is like a really strong blood thinner within 4 hours, right? So that's already pressure. But we're timed from the time the patient gets in the door to the time they get to the CAT scanner. How long does that take? There's a certain amount of time that you want to do that in. And then there's the door to needle time. How long it takes from when the patient sets foot through the door to the time you put the needle in their arm and give them TPA. So it was 60 minutes. Now they're moving to 45 minutes.
Wow.
Then there's the door to like elbow, like if we take them up to the cath lab to actually physically remove the clot that we can see on the CT scan from their brain. There's that time too. So we're being timed by all of this stuff. And sometimes there's complications, like we don't have an accurate history of when the onset of symptoms was, and we don't know until the patient's family comes in, but it takes the family 20 minutes to come behind the ambulance. We don't know if the patient's on blood thinners or if they've had recent surgery, because those things exclude you from getting TPA. Or the patient's blood pressure is like through the roof, because that happens when you have a stroke, and we have to control their blood pressure because their blood pressure has to be a certain amount before you give this medication. So these complications happens, but the hospital doesn't care. They just want to meet that metric, figure it out.
And so it is on you as the physician. Well, I guess it is because you are the top one.
Yeah.
But so is it then looked upon as the whole ER
it's like
in a whole?
Medicine is a business, just like jails are a business. No one cares what you have to do to get it done. They just want it done.
And then
Point blank
and
period.
then does the onus and the burden all end up falling on the head of the head physician or whoever's basically in charge for that night? Because you could say, I had some person quit in admission, so we've got 25 people.
There's
lined
medical
up and
directors who really kind of get all the rah, and then the medical directors kind of tell us, hey, you need to work on this. These are things we could, and they're constantly changing things to try to figure out how we could better meet these metrics. But it's frustrating getting told that you're not good enough. This is not good. When you're like, I'm literally buzzing.
And you're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
Well, I find it.
I'm not home with my family because I'm helping you.
Yes.
Right,
Like,
right.
Because I
Helping you
find
and
it,
these people.
I
Yeah.
find it a little interesting that you get push when medicine is such a delicate. You're dealing with a
Yes.
life and death situation.
Yes.
So
Preach.
to push a physician,
Right.
and you're
burnout.
Yes.
Right.
You're expecting them to like, okay, you're done with her, move on. No,
Yeah.
she
You're
has-
adding more to the,
it's
the
stressful.
Yes.
I mean, you have the stress of making life or death decisions, like literally.
And
then
girl,
you
I'm
have
never going to a hospital.
no, but here's the thing. But you read that article.
Yes.
You read that article. One of the key characteristics of physicians, we're resilient and we figure it out.
Yes.
Right.
And that's what
But there's
makes
only so much.
but that's what makes this problem even crazier, because it's like if we could figure out how to not be burned out, we would.
But I don't
But-
think you have the time
So
to
what are
because
you-
you're too busy like in it.
So what are your
yeah.
suggestions? Like if you could
So-
have a table of administrators and higher ups and be like, listen,
Yeah. If your ideal
Yo,
hospital.
honestly, they could do the small things to make us feel more appreciated at work and really feel like our work is valuable. That would be great. There's this rule with I don't. It's not JCO. It's OSHA. I think
yeah.
OSHA. They don't allow us to eat or drink in patient care areas. So they consider the entire emergency department a patient care area. So we cannot drink and we cannot eat there.
Wait a minute, so-
How? But people don't understand. We're running all the time. We
Yeah.
don't have time to go to the
go
cafeteria
to
or
a-
even
yeah.
take the 10, 15, whatever walk to the nurses' lounge, because it's a nurses' lounge. The ER, the physician's lounge is like, forget it. It's outside the ER. Bust a left, go down this hallway.
Oh, wow.
We don't have time for that all the time. Like, we don't.
so why do you think? I understand the eating because that's like why.
No,
but
we have an
drinking-
office. No, we have an. We had like we the place that we used to try. There was an office with a door. So how is that a patient care area if it has a door? And it's like, you know, like I get headaches when I'm dehydrated. I get really
Yeah.
bad headaches when I'm dehydrated. I have a headache now because I didn't drink enough water yesterday.
Well,
So
yeah,
no,
right
I'm
here.
trying not to drink
The
on camera. But it's like those little things just make you feel unappreciated and like you're not human.
So you
like
can't even drink water?
we're not supposed to.
Really?
We're not supposed to. They go, oh, you can have a hydrating station.
Y'all need to change that.
And it's like those things just make you just so frustrated. And it's like, how, like, I'm not a doctor where I could take a scheduled break and I'll be
Right.
back. And even when
Yeah.
I go to the cafeteria, right, I have a
Pager.
phone in my pocket. It's constantly going off. I'm in the bathroom sometimes and they're like, Dr. Kelly, so-and-so is on the phone. We're constantly getting phone calls because we have to admit patients. We need
Right.
specialists. We need
Right.
this. We need that. The nurse, like an ER doctor literally gets interrupted like every, I think, like 1 to 2 minutes. Like sometimes like I'm talking, I'm trying to put in orders. There's someone behind me asking me for this. My wife bought me coffee the other day, right? From the time I got up to walk outside to get the coffee, I think 3 people stopped me on the way out the door. It's like it's real intense in the environment that I work in. So that's why ER physicians have one of the highest rates of burnout. Same thing with OB/GYN doctors. They're high stress, sometimes
They don't
fast
sleep.
paced job.
Yeah.
It's
You're my doctor.
It's tough. And I'm not complaining. I am
Right.
complaining. I love my job, but I'm just speaking about the things that
It's not
make
complaining.
it more
it's-
difficult.
Yeah, it's bringing to light and bringing to attention the things that are seemingly broken that should
and
be
it's important
fixed.
to know because when we go to the ER and we have our personal
No one has
emergency,
any idea.
We have no idea what goes on behind the
Right.
scenes. We don't know. We
Right.
just want you to take care of my child, take care of me.
Right.
I don't feel well, and we're very hysterical.
And I think the cynicism is an important symptom
Yes.
of burnout, because sometimes people will see a physician and be like, well, why is he so short? Or they just seem like they didn't care. It's because we're so cynical about stuff. Like, like it's just like, oh, why is this patient here today? Like, you stubbed your toe. Like, why is that an emergency to you?
Right.
When really their approach should be, compassion and education. Well, sir, you just kind of hit your foot there. You could probably just go to urgent care next time and they can x-ray it for you and figure it out. It's not necessarily, it's an emergency to you. I understand that, but it's not necessarily an emergency that belongs in the emergency department. We don't always take that route because we're so burnt out and so tired. Like, I tell my wife all the time, I just want the really sick patients. I don't really care about, you know what I mean? Like, because but that is why. And I'm only what, 2.5 years into practicing on my own.
Girl, you need some
And
lavender oil.
They might put a
Well, you know,
stop
it's so
on
funny
that
you
too.
say OBGYN because we had referred our doctor to someone who was she was thinking about having children. Like she was in the interview process, right? So she goes to see our doctor, and he's East Coast, you know, he was tired. He had delivered. There was an emergency. He was still in his scrubs, and he had this appointment with this lady. And so I know him very well, and he's East Coast. They have that cutting, you know, humor or not. And so I guess he wasn't as warm and cuddly and let me hug you kind of. He's not that kind of doctor anyway. Well, we get along great, but either way. So she was so offended. And she told us why would you recommend someone like that? And we're like, wait, what? And, you know, she went on and on and on. And my husband like, what? Like what you say.
But also,
it's like, that's not how he treats us. Like, what?
Yeah.
But then she was horrified. She goes, I would never recommend anybody to him. I was like, oh, okay.
And then you
So it
have
was a bad interview.
but
It was a bad day for him.
Everybody
'cause
has
it was
a bad
exhausting.
day. Everybody has a bad day. And then sometimes you're exhausted, and then people come in with all these questions, and you're like, I don't even know what time it is, what day it is, and you just catch sometimes physicians on a bad day.
Yeah.
But what I really do want to talk about with physician burnout, because we're talking about it like how it pertains to patient care, but how it pertains to your self-care, because there's a lot of physicians who commit suicide. There's a lot of med students that commit suicide.
No.
If you read in that article, I couldn't find the actual statistics for what they wrote in that article, and I like to make that clear because I don't like to state stuff that I don't 100% have the evidence for. And I've read a few articles. That article says that the suicide rate is higher than some soldiers with PTSD. I don't know that that's true, but I do know that the suicide rate for physicians is higher than the general population.
And is that in med school? Like they're they realize I can't do this.
Just overall. Like, I
And
mean,
if you studying.
Google probably like physician suicide, there's like horrendous stories. When I was in med school, there was a dental student. Where I went to school was in Newark, New Jersey, and there's a big train station down there, Penn Station, bus, train, whatever. He walked down to Penn Station and just walked in front of a bus. Like, it happens, and a lot of people don't talk about it.
Right.
And physicians,
we don't hear about it. We don't hear about it on the news. Like, I don't see anybody doing any specials on it, or
physicians are really good at
Masking.
saying I'm okay.
Yeah,
saying I'm
masking.
okay. And then you're like, God, that physician seems so happy, and they kill themselves.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too that I was gonna bring up too, is that I feel like physicians, people who go into medicine, are kind of type A personalities. Type
Absolutely.
A personalities.
You can't do it if you're not type A.
Right. You just you get in there, you get it done. You know, you see the problem, you just push through it, you keep it going, and then at the end of the day, you're like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. Or by the time it gets to be a problem where you are talking about it, it's a huge problem because you have already let it go. And I think that's what people need to understand, that we need to wake up and be more proactive.
There are people trying to be proactive, like even ACEP, it's the American College of Emergency Physicians. They're well aware, and they're writing multiple articles. They're trying to, figure out, wellness programs and things like that. So I think the medicine community is absolutely aware and trying to find a solution. I'm just trying to make the general or the public
So
aware.
what do you think they're doing a good enough job?
The answer is I don't know. And the reason why I say I don't know is because I'm not like that heavy into it, and I haven't looked at everything that everyone is doing. So I would say I don't know.
So what are the warning signs?
So the warning signs are pretty simple, actually. Irritability, like, why are you so irritable? Like, what's wrong with you today? Just
The doctor?
The doctor,
Okay.
yeah. Irritability. Not being able to recover, just being so exhausted. Like, even when you have time off, you're still like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And then when it comes time to go back to work, you don't feel refreshed, and you're like, I don't want to go back to work. Being cynical with your patients. Why are they here? Like, not really embracing your compassionate side, or why you got into this. And then sometimes the symptoms are just straight up major depression. Like,
Okay. So do they have a class like this in med school where they explain?
I wouldn't say a class. I would say that it's talked about. Definitely in residency, we talked about it. We had a wellness committee in residency, and they would be in charge of making sure we had outings and did things together so we can all like talk about stuff. Our what do you call it? Our leaders or advisors were pretty proactive. If there's an issue, you can come talk to us. We had chaplain. You know, we had certain things. I don't remember there being like straight up like if you need to see a psychiatrist, you can see one.
Well,
I don't remember
outlet.
that. But I mean, it was something that we were aware of, and we maybe had like a lecture or two on it.
So do you think it becomes more real when you're at a residency and you're on your own and you're doing the work?
Depends on the person.
Okay.
Me personally, I don't think I felt it in residency. I didn't feel it until like
you were on
now.
your own, doing your
on my
own. So OBGYN, ER doctors obviously are some of the doctors that are.
So critical care, that's like your ICU doctors, intensivists. 48,
oh my God, 48%. I can't even imagine that.
And this is from the American Medical Association website.
Oh, wow.
Critical care, 48%. Neurology was surprising to me.
Neurology?
Yeah, I know. I kind of made that face too. I'm not a neurologist, not trying to play y'all. I was just shocked by that. 48%.
That's a very high, stressful. Yeah.
Family medicine, OB, GYN, internal medicine, and emergency
Family medicine.
Depends on when you practice. You have to consider the
practice,
whole. No, you have to consider the whole country though. So Mid America, family medicine doctors do a lot, just because there's shortages of physicians. So they may have.
They may be the ER doctor and the family. Okay, I get it.
Or and the specialty doctor too. Like they've taken on a lot in their role, and it's their own practice. So you have all these other factors.
And then physicians with the specialties with lowest rates of burnout: plastic surgery, dermatology.
Okay, I see that.
Pathology. Pathologists don't really deal with patients a lot.
No.
And they have great schedules.
Yeah, I was like that.
Ophthalmology, orthopedics. These are all specialties where you're a super subspecialist and you take patients at your leisure.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a chill.
You're coming specifically for that.
Yeah, but even
and
still.
there's not really a ton. I mean, there's plastic surgery emergencies, but it's very rare that you're going to call a plastic surgeon at 3 a.m. like, hey, can you come to the ER?
Right. Well, that happened. Well, no, there usually isn't there a doctor on call? Because when my son had his first...
It depends on what type of hospital you go to. So if you go to a large academic center where there's people in training, so there's always... So if you go to any place that has a residency program with all the specialties, so large tertiary center, there's always someone from orthopedics there. There's always someone from plastics. There's even dermatology. You know, they may have a dermatology residency there. So there'll be a resident to come down and at least evaluate you. The attending not going to be there. But, you know, so it depends on where you go. If you come to Northridge Hospital and you want a plastic surgeon, forget about it.
No, okay, so when we went to Northridge with Robert's first injury where his ankle was broken.
Pediatric?
No.
Oh, your husband, not
no,
the little one.
No, Robert, my son Robert.
Oh, how old was he?
He was 16, 17?
Pediatric.
Was it a pediatric? He came down and flushed, like they did a procedure, they like right away.
Orthopedics?
Yeah.
Yeah, ortho is not like, I work a lot with ortho. So orthopedic injuries in the ER are common. So they will come down if they need to. Anytime you have an open fracture, you have to wash it out.
Yeah.
Like, otherwise someone might lose their limb or something like that.
Right.
So those things they come down for. And depending on the orthopedic surgeon, I have one orthopedic surgeon who will sometimes come down and do reductions and stuff like that. He's really nice, and he'll sit there and teach you and whatever. So I really like him. Some of them will be like, see him upstairs.
Yeah.
See him in the OR.
Yeah, I was really impressed with how quickly they took care of Robert. Like,
but it depends on the severity of your injury. That's what you have to understand.
It was pretty bad.
It's like that's why I tell people all the time, you have to adjust your expectations to the ER. Anytime a specialist comes down right away, you're in trouble. You probably have a pretty significant injury.
It was awful.
Right.
It was,
and when we talk about
it was like that. Like his foot
or like if someone's face is like literally, like I've had that, like literally like skin pulled away. Yeah, you're gonna have a plastic surgeon that night. You know what I mean? So it depends.
And when we talk about people, the specialties that were coming into the ER, are we talking about surgeons? Like, so say orthopedics are coming in to see it. They're all surgeons. Can we just explain to the people that
surgeons are always in the hospital? Always, because they're always operating. So the subspecialties that come down frequently in the emergency department, orthopedics sometimes will come down. Trauma surgeons are always there. General surgeons, those are the most common surgeons that will come down to see you. General surgeons, they'll handle, appendicitis. So if you need an appendectomy, cholecystitis, if you need to have your gallbladder out, if you have a bowel obstruction, anything kind of going on in the belly here, they come down. Then you have like cardiothoracic surgeons, like if you have anything going on in your chest. I've never seen one, maybe a few times in the ER. They're upstairs. But what people have to understand is they don't always see you until you go upstairs. So, you know what I mean? Like some people, I had a patient who had an orthopedic injury and she's like, well, I want to see an orthopedic surgeon. I'm like, sweetie, you don't need surgery right now. You see him in his office. So, you know, and that's another thing that leads to burnout is that the general public, I think, just doesn't really understand medicine, and they have all these demands. And then for a time still, there's this thing with patient satisfaction scores. So they were trying to make your pay linked to patient satisfaction scores.
Wow.
Heck no.
And that's not fair because they could have a bad experience in triage as opposed to your experience with
Is that still the case? Or they got away?
Hopefully
they did away with that.
You guys, people fought against that because that's not realistic
I don't think
or fair. I don't think it could be
actively, like they were thinking about like for a hospital, like how much you get from Medicare or how much you get from this, like linking that to like your hospital patient satisfaction. I don't think they decided to do that. I need to look that up further. But I know some of my colleagues that work at other hospitals, they get bonuses like if they have good patient satisfaction scores.
Wow.
But that type of thing is stressful because, you know, it's patients, I compare them to children. No, seriously. I mean, think about it this way. Like, your kid wants this and they're crying, I want this now. And you as a parent, you have more experience and wisdom and you know that's not good for you right now. Yeah. So I have more years of training. I'm highly educated in medicine. This is not good for you right now.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like you have grown adults having temper tantrums.
Right.
And then in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I'm about to get this email and get told that I did something wrong because the patient wanted an MRI and I said no. Those things just make you feel so underappreciated.
Let me ask you something. Can let's say I'm in the hospital and I want an MRI. I want an MRI, and you're like, I don't suggest that. And I'm like, I don't care what you suggest. I want an MRI. Do you give in? Can the patient demand something and get it?
Depends on the physician. Me, personally, if I think you absolutely don't need it, no, I don't. A lot of time, I'm a good talker. A lot of times I'm able to sit down with a patient, explain to them why they don't need it, and explain to them that it can wait to be done outpatient. And I would say a good majority of the time, once you explain to them why not and they understand. And
so can they claim that you were denying them care?
Yeah. I've had a straight, and I hate to say it this way, we call them drug seeking patients. A patient who's like clearly abusing opioids or clearly abusing benzos and just seeking narcotic medications. I've had her write a Yelp review about her experience in the ER, literally like this long, blasting us about how we didn't give good care and we kicked her out and all of this stuff. And the CMO at the hospital at the time was like, hey, I heard about this patient. Do you want to tell me what happened? I'm like, I'm bothered that I have to defend my decision making for someone who's absolutely wrong.
So they would have rather you'd given her the codeine.
I don't know that they would have rather
than to get a bad review.
And it's not necessarily that I got in trouble. That's not what I'm trying to make.
No.
That's not what I'm trying to make.
But that's the power of the patient.
But because yes, that's annoying. Yeah. But because we work for a hospital where they're in the business of making money.
Yeah.
So if they have a review that doesn't look too great, that affects them making money. It affects the bottom line. So that's what I mean when we say that, like, when you read that article about physicians sometimes making decisions because of this, like, that's why.
Yeah.
So it's
and
almost
that's where you're going. That's where you're comparing it to going into battle. That's where
it's going into battle, and it's just
these are all the different things.
It just sticks with you right here. You ever I'm sure everyone has done something that you're like, that wasn't the right thing to do. Right. And in your heart, you're like, oh, God, I messed it up. And it sticks with you for a little bit. And in that article, it literally says death by 1,000. What does it say? Death by 1,000 what? Death by 1,000 slices. So if someone slices you once, it'll heal. Right. But every day you go to work.
Doing it, yeah.
So you just made me lose my.
I'm sorry.
No. So what protects? Okay, so we know we have patient rights. What protects the patient? I mean, not the patient, the physician. What protects you from someone that's irrational, like me?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Like, let's say, for instance, I didn't get my MRI, so I'm going to go on Yelp, who goes on Yelp? But I'll go on Yelp. I go on Yelp for restaurants. I don't go on Yelp for doctors.
Right. Well, no, I think Yelp is a good place to look for physicians because I think yes, because I think you can get an idea, a general idea of
some
people.
Yelpers are crazy.
I think you can see that though. I think depending on what you read, if a person is on a rant, well, for me, I take it with a grain of salt. But I want to see what people's opinions are. I want to see that you were so compelled to go on there and say, "Oh my God, he was such a great physician," or "She was such a great physician," or "They were such an awful physician."
But sometimes people say, "Oh, this is such a great physician," and it may just be that physician gives them everything that they want, but they're not necessarily providing good care.
Right.
So it's like every patient's perspective is just. I don't know that you can always trust that because sometimes you guys don't know what's good for you.
Right. But I think it's a good tool. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing. I do think.
I don't know that I would do. Not for
I wouldn't make a huge decision based upon it, but I think it's good information. It's kind of like talking to somebody.
But there's other ways to get that kind of information.
I mean, my personal preference is just to interview the doctor yourself. I mean, you could take the Yelp reviews, whatever reviews, to kind of narrow your search, but
but then also too that you could have a bad interview, like with your OBGYN. Yeah. I mean, I can attest to him. He's a fantastic doctor, but if someone has a bad interview like that, then you might want to say, okay, well, maybe that person was just having a bad day.
No, that just means you missed out on that doctor. You'll find one that fits you better. That's all that means.
Yeah. Do you have any questions really quickly?
Yeah. No. Just comments from London.
So what I wanted to say was that London. I wonder what their healthcare system is like.
It's actually very good. It's free healthcare. I was very interesting.
I took care of a guy from Canada. And he liked his healthcare system, but he did admit that he was like, it's going to take me forever to get this imaging that I needed to get, because he probably needed more of an MRI because he had a really bad ankle fracture. Could have been operated on, but he didn't want to stay. He wanted to drive back to Canada.
So a friend of mine, her it's a long story, but anyway, her mom is ill, and so all of her medical is covered by the country, whatever their plan is. But her aunt, who's coming in from another country, is being the bone marrow donor. So, but because she's doing it in this country and she's not from the country, she has to pay for all that's going on. Yeah, that's the trick. So if you're from London, you're a citizen of London, then your health care is covered. You can have open heart surgery. You can have anything.
Okay. I keep telling myself I need to get dual citizenship.
Yeah.
And then if you're
not. Let's say I got hurt.
In
London.
Okay.
And I needed something done immediately. I would have to pay
surgery.
for it. I'm not covered under that. Only citizens of the country.
Will your insurance then cover
Yeah, my insurance would cover me.
Yeah, but sometimes, exactly.
But I'm just saying, this lady's coming to do something for a citizen. And so
that's terrible.
That her medical procedures and what they have to do to her to get her well enough to do the whatever is not covered by, even though she's providing the service.
You know what I think would be so much more simple. And I know that people will say, sometimes physicians commit fraud, blah, 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 whatever. But I just think that if the insurance companies just release their reign a little bit, and if a physician documents that this is appropriate care or this is necessary, just roll with it. It would make your life so much simpler. I think it would make the healthcare system more simpler. I think in order to control whether physicians are trumping up charges or whatever, do occasional audits. That's fine. Right. But this whole thing where they're not covering this, they're not covering that, they feel like this is not necessary. I think it's like, if your doctor is saying, like, you have to go through so much sometimes to document for a patient.
So then how do you
necessary.
track fraud? Let's say there's a doctor that is, let's say I have a headache.
Depends on what type of fraud.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, I have a headache, but he's giving me codeine, but he's not really giving me codeine, but she's the patient with the headache. And then the codeine's going either on the street or going to someone else, or he's selling it on the side.
People get caught, especially right now with narcotics. It's just not a good time to try to commit those type of things because everybody's looking at narcotics.
Right. So what about the doctors
those things happen. There's crime. I mean, drug dealers figure it out. Eventually you get caught. I mean,
but they keep doing it. It doesn't mean that they stop. It doesn't
mean that the physician's going to stop.
That's what I'm saying. It's
just move on to another state.
Wouldn't insurance... Doesn't insurance?
But I think they're trying to protect.
But that's not the type of things that I'm talking about, though. Like, I'm not talking about that type of fraud. I'm talking about that, like, you're billing for procedures maybe that you didn't do, or you're trumping up the billing code.
Well, the people do that when they get Medicaid. That's how they get money from Medicare or Medicaid, and that really not providing that service.
Some people do that.
I guess at the end of the day, the question is, do you feel like the rules that they are imposing are, one, making a big difference? So probably it's really not making that huge of an impact because it's still happening. And what can they do? Could they just loosen the reins? Like what
I think they should loosen the reins a little bit and let physicians be physicians.
Yeah.
That's honestly how I feel.
Yeah. Because they're worried about the bottom line.
Yeah, everybody's worried about the bottom line,
and
Medicare,
people are not worried about the patient.
And then so with Medicare and Medi-Cal, right? Their reimbursements. God, that's why some physicians don't want to take care of Medi-Cal patients because they just don't reimburse. Like, you may charge $100 for this procedure and Medi-Cal will give you $20 for it.
So the system is a little bit...
It's a little broken.
Yeah. Broken. What I wanted to address was
one minute.
I know one thing that physicians can do in regards to burnout.
Yes.
So you have to kind of balance your account of energy. So, fill your tank on things that you enjoy, spending time with your family, sports, vacationing, whatever. So when you have those times that just pull and depletely, you have an energy balance to pull from.
Yeah.
For me, I take a week off, like a full week off every 3 months.
Yeah. That's good.
Mandatory. I may take more time off than that depending on if I have to do something, but just to kind of clear my head, even if I don't go anywhere, because I notice that I get too stressed out. You have to identify the things that stress you out.
Yeah.
Working more than 4 shifts in a row bugs me out. I'm about to work 6 shifts in a row, so I know I'm going to die. But I had to do that because I had something to do with my schedule or whatever. But I try not to do things that trigger me to feel more irritated and more tired.
So you need to understand yourself, know yourself,
Yeah.
ask for help when you need it.
Be
Admit
kind
that you're
to your
burnt out.
doctors.
Yes. And
that's what I meant to say. You'd be surprised at how much people don't say thank you. Like, I was telling my wife that my wife that the other day. Like, I may take care of anywhere from 15 to 20 patients a day, and maybe only one says thank you.
Oh wow! Mind your manners, people.
No. Listen, my son says thank you when I serve him a bowl of cereal.
Yes.
Don't even play games like
I'm
that.
serious.
That's awful.
Shame
on the public.
So when people say, like, what's the best thing you could do for your physician? Say thank you.
Say thank you. Yeah, in this holiday season, if you
not
wind
about
up
the
in
money.
the ER, just say thank you. They're there.
Yes.
They have families, children that they're giving up to be there to help you get through whatever you're going through.
Yeah.
But we've run out of time.
On a thank you note.
I know. Yes, thank you for watching. Thank you for being with us every week. Thank you for being with us the past 2 years. We hope you've been informed, educated, and entertained. Catch us on our Facebook, on our website, and you'll see what's going on.
Yes.
We wish you all the best.
Yes.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Kwanzaa, everything.
Happy
holidays.
Hanukkah,
Happy
holidays.
Happy everything.
May 2019 be
the
your
best.
year.
The best.
The best.
It's the year of you.
Yes. The year of miracles for me. Bye.
Hold on 1 second.
You're listening to Table for Five with Felicia and Annette, only on LA Talk Radio.